slow it up. That's going on. Hold on.
Yeah.
When I came here, oh, wait. Okay. On? Can you hear? Okay. When I came here, let me go back a couple years. When Ariane first found out that Lawrence was going to host this conference, I just happened to be visiting Kansas from the West Coast where it's nice and cool. And she said, oh, we're having this conference and you'd really be interested in it. And then she went on to talk about something else because she was trying to pique my interest. And I said, well, I'm not going to be there. I travel in the summer. I don't plan on being here this summer. Okay. So my mom calls last April and says, you got to be in Kansas. So I scrambled around and I was able to come here. But last summer, I'm just jumping all around. Last summer I went around the United States to different reservations to find out what did the reservation schools need, because I teach English. But I also want all of the people in this country to learn the languages of the people who lived there before 1492. So I'm going around to these reservations and visiting schools, public schools on reservations where there's an existing language program. And I asked the people who were involved in it, what do you think would be most helpful if I was going to try to come up with something to help get the language used in the schools? And they said, the public school teachers are afraid of it. The kids won't use the language because they get in trouble. And I think you probably all saw the article a few months ago where a girl got kicked out of school. She was suspended because she was using her language. And I just think that's wrong. So this whole summer for me has been about trying to come up with some way to integrate our languages into the public schools. And I teach English. Well, I also want to teach Kickapoo, even though I don't know it yet. Joseph knows it much better than I ever could. But anyway, I'm going to get there. So, one thing that I've done in the past 5 years, every summer I go to National Writing Project seminars. And I'm associated with South Central Writing Project here in Kansas and Bay Area Project when I was out in California. And they teach us that if people learn how to write their own stories, it's easier for you to teach everything else about how to write. So I'm thinking, why don't I take that and we can learn to speak Kickapoo or Cherokee or Creek or Potawatomi in the English classroom. It's called language arts normally. So it's a language. So what I'm trying to do is to come up with a way that students can do this. So I tried to make a movie. And I also got to know Lawrence campus really well because started out in Watson, which has been my favorite library in the world since I was 16. I love this library. But it didn't have what I was told were the right programs to make movies. So I bought this really cool phone. Oh, I can't bring my phone out because somebody might steal it. Where did it go? I bought this phone while I'm here because you can take movies with it. It's got 10 megapixels and it's got kind of a big memory. And I thought, I can use this. So for a couple days, I did that in class. I just set this little phone up and I just turned it on. And I got some movies that way. So then I'm looking around for a place where I can go make my movies. So there's over in a hall about half a mile that way, there's Buddy Hall, I think is the name of it. There's a lab there, and they're supposed to have movie-making equipment in there. So I get on a computer there, and I'm totally lost. I can't even navigate around in their computers. So I leave there, and I find my friend she's just walking out of the next building, and she sees me all dejected. She says, what's wrong? I said, I can't make a movie. So she took me over to EGARC Center in this building that is supposed to be a parking lot. And there's, on the 4th floor, there's a language lab, and there's a man named Jonathan Perkins there who helped me to figure out how to use their equipment. I said, okay. And Ariane was able to contact him so I could check out a camera. Okay, I'm ready to do this now. So I got 2 days worth of film, hours and hours, tons of megabytes, I don't even know how many. And then I tried to make a movie and couldn't. So I'm back to square one. So then I talked to Carlos. He says, well, why aren't you using the lab in Fraser? Because I didn't know it existed. So I go to Fraser, and I'm trying to upload my stuff and put it on the Mac, because Mac's supposed to be best. Didn't work. Ended up coming back over here last week to Watson, where I started. And I used Windows Movie Maker. It's a free program. And I used, for this presentation, PowerPoint. And you can export from PowerPoint into a movie, and it just went away. Okay, I'm done talking. Cut it. I'm done. I'm done. No, don't shut down. Don't shut down.
Keep talking.
How do you do this, Brad?
Why did it shut down?
I don't know. It got
What
tired
did
of
you say?
talking. Look, it says shutting down. I know. I'm sorry. I was just going to go to
Okay.
Okay, you can't see it. Thanks.
Keep telling us the story. The story.
Well, the story then went to the PowerPoint that I exported. And if this disc didn't work, I put it on DVD discs. But I didn't count on the computer going down. That's funny, because I was just ready to start it. So maybe we can't watch it.
Does it have power, Brad?
Pardon?
It has power?
Yeah. Power's all plugged in.
It's on.
Oh, no. Talk about it. In Cherokee.
That's why I have the nicest, cleanest
Okay, I'll shut up. So for me, the most interesting story is the fact that Georgia and Ida have kept their language after all these years of being away from it. So they came up to Lawrence in 61 and 71. Went to Haskell. So there's a little bit of history about Haskell if you don't know it. It's a little slanted, where they could attend to shed their language. That's what they did. That's when I went in the 70s when I was in junior college. And now we're a four-year university. And just some images of Haskell over the years, from way back to current. And I started with Georgia. And that's her first home, where the A is, Lost City, Oklahoma.
Jogging lecture, dig del quasti, castle, busy, jogging lecture. So no,
I learned so much about movie making.
I was going to be in 11th grade. No, high school. That was 2 years. No, that's what high school. They got their pasta. High school. No, they understand haska. Aksuyeska. They go their pasta. No, they 2 years knowledge you abudel kwa understand haska abudel kwasti no nana dagielis 2 years understand haska knowledge ag Kansas City dagilang stanela and I said we did yet not negotiate not dapat wag dagilang stanela noon a gay all of stars castle no tonu done there noon I the way on up to the ulna digital staki digitally digital stars don't go well at Kalisha sana digital staki all castle noon 66 kaya awala na tagilang stane hasko noon nagsko sa ikan na hit tagilang stane na kailan no padasa is new date yet no retired nabadan nila ay and ang tausiyo engineer Nancy ang nanore ko ako as and here I sit today.
So you came here in 61 to go to Haskell for 2 years?
Yeah, I was in high school. I was in high school for 2 years, and then after high school, at the time it was still vocational, to go on to school. I was just glad to get out of high school. No, that's me, but I'm not lazy to work. So I chose cooking. They had cooking school. So that's what I took cooking school for 2 years. And then after I graduated, I worked in Kansas City for almost a year. And then my instructor, he was still there at school, and then with this one lady, she retired. And I said, I'm trying to say, she retired, and then he asked me if I wanted to work, if I wanted a job. So I filled out my papers, go with Dr. Kalish, and in 66 of September, I started working there. And I worked there 40 years. And then I retired, I think, about 5 years ago. So then here I sit today. Golden not dagilang stane ay kilad no Gonghin. Remember that's Ada's Cherokee name. No, Golden not dagilang stane nana kilad no Gonghin ulucha. Nana niso, jelek ni monis, uni lucha no, dunde tan, unle na hatan del pasta nana, school ng dastan has unsuyes undastati undel kwaster unsuyes skina anichalik anige huge non school to idali hap chelek oji woniska seska tlakola nika de hen chelek ani woni his ngesanjik nika hayanila de hen ayo idoji no he aneliska idali hap ogaxesto seskin ogasie chelek todas las veces seskin idala no le yone watch thing seskin what's the game chelek go on the history and kila no duni squat nana dan de kwasta no lesaya no leski unlena nana duni lapstane no unlena duni lapstane da jekla jele ogi woni histi na hen dan de kwasta ya I hen stit na dikke day hoppers or ju kast ja I go hen na anisa na mi ge hut sit dan de kwasta no seskin unisquat dan de kwasta unlena dunilams aneha da jehla chelek oji woni histi there when I was working there I was already working there when Ida came and Ruby and Margaret. Well, Margaret came later. But anyway, we really didn't talk that much Cherokee because I was an employee and they were students. And I was more or less like over them, you know, not told what to do or show it or whatever. And so, in a way, that was kind of a no-no. But then after they graduated, then when they got hired, you know, later, when they got hired, when they were employees, it was a lot better. Then we could, you know, talk more in Cherokee. Because sometimes whenever somebody else is around, some of them felt like maybe we were talking about them, or, you know, they didn't like it. So we kind of watched that, you know. But if we wanted to discuss something where we didn't want anybody else to know how we talk, you know, talked in our language and stuff, you know. But nowadays, you know, there's a lot of people, they have their own languages, and, you know, they talk and they could care less whether somebody else understands or not, you know. But back then, we weren't like that.
Mm-hmm.
Been with us the whole time, this poster. And now we go to Ida, who's learning the months.
I think it's in my nature to speak the language.
And you don't think that's true with other people?
I don't know. Well, I think if you're, I just believe, let's say people from 40 on down, they grew up within their environment speaking it. They were born and raised when people, that's all they spoke was their language. So I think that it just kind of stayed with you longer because you spoke it every day, and whatever you did was it. You know, you had to describe it in Cherokee, you had to ask in Cherokee, you had to tell in Cherokee, you had to do everything in Cherokee. And I think that it's just up there. I have it, you know, that's it. And the ones that came along later on, then they had a choice. Either you can speak Cherokee or not speak Cherokee. Like you've got English. Would you prefer English? Okay, so they just, it was a subtle thing, I think. I mean, you know, very slowly drifted off to speaking English, and that was it.
There's Stillwell where the A is.
Chị sư bữa xe là hẹn cho em là sự nè post it hit over.
Less than optimal.
Để ostaa just toi. Pohjilla ostanut nasko. On tiistaan sun ikatei. Nana i puutani talvuusan aatiisia. Tuo sun luvuuta nana ammai kanne. Justiin ammai talosta suena anna passan satna. Klase. Så ihan si. Stika tuli tuosta ase i kuilo ela tyva. Tini nel saun na isundal. Sumenassa. That's about it. Also, I used to like to go up the mountain to where the water was coming out of the rocks, and I'd go get their butter or their cream or milk or something, because that's what she used for cooler. But she'd send me up there before dinner or whatever, you know, and I'd go get the milk or the butter and for the table. I remember going up and down that hill, that mountain. When I think back, I just thank God that there was never really rattlers around, you know, because it was just a little trail and you had to hike up there, and then go this way, and then the water was coming down like this, flowed into the, you know, flowed out. Yeah, it was just a really nice area where they lived.
That's really not Ida's grandfather's picture.
I thought that I thought I dudes, or like you see, dudes, that's uncle, and dude, that's grandfather. Ja, dude, gonna check the used. The Underland käsa med käsa Eugene Johnson Wade don Eugene Eliza Sony. Skina i the Underland na bidrag så har vi Kitchen Clubs Tanatan Undar Fikasa Eduntan Inka in Achalagia di Conti Edo Junega Leus Junega Lesa Kogila Koskila in Warkesa. No taste of that stand, but it's all up there with the content. My grandfather was a dark complected man. He was slim and kind of tall. And I remember as he got older, he would sit inside the house on a rocking chair. And he would have the rocking chair by the window, and he would look out the window towards the road. And they lived up in the mountains. And he would just sit there, rock, and he'd whistle, you know. He was a really kind man, and I loved him. He never mistreated me. He just always wanted the best for me and for his grandchildren, all of us. I just wanted to tell my grandchildren just a little bit about my grandfather so they will know what he looked like, you know, a little bit about it.
And that's also not her grandmother, right?
Grandmother.
We'll get the picture out.
Elise and her name. Chiqueiros, porque Elise, går hela och du lyssnar kan jag äta och nå ett avstånd. Du tar histan så vet ni ju. Kayo skika så vi heke hästen Junet pystyy kalteen asentelle kehen katselle aikaan monesta kajunet ja monesta. Se lesku puhut synteet oikeassa asenne. Skinusta on no. Mitä nakala Elise and my grandmother was not a very tall or big lady, but she had skin like yours. Even the hair was like yours. It was the pepper, and her skin was light, not too dark. But she was a kind woman too, and I loved her. And she always wanted me around her. You know, I'd help out. You know, I spent a lot of time with my grandparents' house. I don't remember too many grandchildren spending that much time over at their house. Me, I did. And I remember every time my mom and my dad came to get me to take me home, I would feel so sick and lonely because I didn't want to go. I wanted to stay there with them. And the thought of not seeing them would be just lonesome. I would be feeling really lonely. But anyway, that's my grandparents. And
That's what I got out of it.
Yeah.
pretty cool if you can speak another language, whether it's Cherokee or anything else. If you've got two languages you can understand and speak, three even better.
And I'm not going to go to these places, but there's a couple dictionaries, there's more than two, but there's a couple dictionaries online. This one is the one that Brad's working on, and this one has a whole bunch of words on it, but we're running out of time. And I would make my students do a better citation list than that. But that's our group.
Are there any
No,
questions?
hang on. Oh, we're not done
You're
yet.
not done?
Chill. Now, so anyway, I would like to ask Ida and Georgia to come up and accept these gifts from us. For working with us so patiently